So blessings to anyone who will see this recording. And what I want to do is before I even start with anything else, is I would just like to timestamp what we're doing here to show that this information was produced well before the eclipse is getting ready to take place, or not well before. I mean, I've been researching this for about 5 days now and finding different evidence of things, even over the past couple of weeks. Back when we dealt with the April 8th eclipse and the problems with it, I figured that in October, based on NASA records, there would have to be a problem with this eclipse as well. And there is. And that's what we're going to show. A few different things that are problematic are inconsistencies, incongruencies in what we see, what they're telling us, and what really should take place, and even admission that that is what will take place, while at the same time trying to make you think that this is going to be a ring of fire event. So before I do that, I just want to show you what time it is right now where I am. And let me just do this for you right now. Time in Atlanta. And you can see in my screen, not spelled that right, but you can see in my screen what time it is for me here. It is 4:07 p.m. I'm 6 hours difference where I am. It's 10:07 a.m. in Atlanta. Now, the eclipse will be taking place in about another 3 hours. And so we just want to go ahead and timestamp. And now we're going to begin with explaining exactly what is going on here. So the first thing we need to examine is the truthfulness of this eclipse. Is this really a full eclipse, or what would be referred to as an annular ring of fire eclipse? Not a total eclipse like what they claimed happened in April 8th. This would be a little bit different, an annular where, supposedly the moon does not completely cover the sun. There's some other things we could discuss around that, but we won't today. But the reality of it is yes, it would leave a ring of fire because the sun is not completely covered. Uh, what does NASA say? But before we do that, let me just show you as we charted all these things back when dealing with the April 8th eclipse. Okay. The eclipse that we're following that will ultimately land us on today, October 2nd, 2024, we trace back to a snapshot of time that was used to basically build the whole premise of why the April 8th eclipse had some real problems being actually fraudulent. And now people are openly admitting that. We admitted it or showed it well before the April 8th eclipse occurred. We called it and then proved it. Later presentations showing how basically they try to tie your hand behind your back and make it really hard to figure out, but it was figured out. But what I would call your attention to as we look at this is right here on the screen. Let me just do this, and I'm going to apologize now because this may not be like super smooth, but by God's grace, it will be clear. So right here, this is the eclipse we're looking at. I hope you can see my arrow pointing here. And this right here, it's highlighted in green on the 27th of June, okay, 1862. This star here represents a partial eclipse. Just for a quick review, a circle with a dot in it represents a total or an annular. We don't need to pay attention to these circles that are completely dark, or even a circle down here that would be a half circle, because that deals with lunar events. So we're not dealing in that. We're dealing in this solar event that we're examining. And we see here that it is a partial eclipse. Now, as we follow this forward, we see that in 2024 now, where we are, nothing should change. Okay. It's highlighted here. I have it on the 4th with a question mark, a couple of days difference. Doesn't really matter. It's in the ballpark. There very well could be an eclipse actually taking place today, or it could take place 2 days from now. I'm kind of the mindset that something is taking place today. They're actually stealing one of God's time sentinels, but notice it is still a partial. Okay. And now what we want to do is we want to examine, does NASA show this or admit to this, that it at one point is a partial and then somehow they made it a full? Well, that's exactly what we're going to see here. So we go forward now and we're going to start looking at NASA records. The thing that's going to help anyone who watches this and to understand this is that we're tracking, according to NASA, what's called Sargo cycles. The Sargo cycle is every 18 years and 10 days. Okay, and that's how they jump forward basically 18 years, 10 to 11 days. And you'll see that as we go through this, as it jumps forward. But it's 144. So it makes it very easy to follow. So I've highlighted this 144. If we take this 1862 eclipse and we take it backwards, I took it backwards 3, 4 cycles, something like that, lands us on 1808. Okay. And we see very clearly here, because this is black, not red, as we see here, red represents a total or annular eclipse in NASA records. Okay. Black represents a partial eclipse. This is the eclipse that we're looking at that is supposedly taking place today, or actually taking place. I can't completely say because, well, one, nobody's really going to see it, but we'll discuss that in a moment. But it is number 144, and it's a partial. Now, as we go forward, what do we see? We see that in 1826, again, we see that NASA identifies it as a partial. Okay, and keep in mind, just follow this. Sargo cycle 144 makes it very easy to follow this through. And you can see down here in the corner the timestamp at when I was, doing this. I did this today, my time, 2:12 p.m., which would have been Eastern time, about 8 a.m. in the morning. And you can see here the date is 10/2/2004 today. So this is happening in real time. I am not making this up. Okay, this is on their website. So once again, it's a partial. Now we go to our next. Interesting enough, for some that will understand what's going on here or the ramifications of it, this eclipse then also falls as a partial in 1844 on June 16th. Forgive me for not citing the dates as we're going forward, but once again, as you follow this presentation and go back over it, I hope you will, you'll see that we're jumping every 18 years, 10 to 11 days roughly, for a Sargo cycle, as NASA calls it. Anyway, 1844, June 16th. Now, very interesting, right above it, this 1843, okay, December 21st eclipse, that's the one that became our April 8th eclipse that we dealt in. Now, we did explain that really that eclipse should have occurred, or did occur, in 2023, and how they slipped the line, and how that would have worked. Those are past presentations that we did around the April 8th fraud. And hopefully it would make a lot more sense going over it now, for those that, I don't know. Well, I guess, we'll see who studied, who didn't. But the reality of it is that here we see a full eclipse in red, but it's a partial in 1844. Let's take it forward again, so we can see here. So we go forward now, and I highlighted, but it's the same. Okay, it's jumped here. Let me get my arrow so you can see what I'm talking about. We jump forward there, that last one I showed you. So here, this is the one that this full eclipse, I've highlighted in orange, Sargo cycle 139. We'll see this in a moment. This is the one that shows up as an April 8th eclipse. Okay, but here we are again in 1862. It's a partial. Okay, so we need to see that. Now watch now what happens when we come to 1880. Wow, miraculously, all of a sudden, we'll see here that Sargo cycle 144 becomes what? It becomes a full eclipse. They're making it an annular. This is your total that we dealt with in April. This is not 100% accurate. Okay, at this point, we are finding that NASA is not being truthful. When we understand God's order in the heavens and the way he made creation, and I was having a conversation actually with someone today about how cycles work. We all understand that a day is 24 hours. The sun will find its way back to its relative position every 24 hours. The moon will cycle every 29 and a half days from one new moon to the next. These time sequences never change. And because of that, then we are able to measure time and measure it all the way back to day one of creation. This is what really it allows for, and totally confirms that the Bible is true. It's a scientific, accurate, historical record. Really, the Bible is a watch. It is the way to think about it. But wow, okay, all of a sudden we've got a shift in 1880. It's now become a full eclipse. It jumped from a partial to a full. That, my friends, is a virtual impossibility, but that's what's happened here. Now, for sake of time, we can go through them, but you can do it yourself. Let's just jump us up to 1988 here and see what we've got going. So in 1988, they're showing it as a partial on September 11. Okay, and I think that's interesting, September 11. But so you might ring some bells there for Americans. Okay, so but anyway, it's now we're showing it's a partial. Somehow a full eclipse has now become a partial. We're tracking it forward into 2006. And again, we see that it's a partial. Okay, circle cycle 144. Just keep following that. Look, this April 8th eclipse was Surgo cycle 139. Watch and you'll see it right here. 2024, according to NASA records, here we go. Here we have our eclipses. They're saying two full eclipses occurring in the year that we're in now, 2024, according to a Gregorian calendar. Okay, we're reckoning time according to God's time mechanism, but we can align it with the Gregorian calendar, much like you could sync two watches together. Okay, so we find a synchronicity. We talked about all this and how we can synchronize time in the past, but for sake of time, I'm just showing you very clearly that we jumped to 2024. Here we have Surgo cycle 139, April 8th, and now today, as they're saying, October 2nd, 2024, okay, is a partial eclipse, not a full eclipse. So, what kind of admission do we have as we think about this? Do they actually admit it? Well, they've admitted it here in NASA records, but can we find some kind of written record of admission? Well, as I did my research, I actually did find that. And where I found it was on Wikipedia. Let me show you what they say here in Wikipedia. So it talks about how, we'll just read this paragraph. An annular solar eclipse will occur at the moon's descending node of orbit on Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024, with a magnitude of 0.9326. A solar eclipse occurs when the moon passes between the Earth and the sun, thereby totally or partially obscuring the image of the sun for a viewer on Earth. Okay, partly. Not really, but anyway, an annular solar eclipse occurs when the moon's apparent diameter is smaller than the sun's, blocking most of the sun's light and causing the sun to look like an annulus ring. An annular eclipse appears as a partial eclipse. No, it doesn't. It does not. But this is what they're saying: a partial eclipse over a region of the Earth thousands of kilometers wide, occurring about 2 hours before. Anyway, here we go. All right, this is problematic. Then we can read down here. So basically, Wikipedia is openly admitting, okay, that this is a partial eclipse. That's a problem. We keep reading though. Let's read this next paragraph here. Other than Easter Island and a small portion near the southern tips of Argentina and Chile and north of the Falkland Islands, the path of the eclipses and Penumbra will be entirely over the Pacific Ocean. So, I mean, really nobody can see it unless you're out there, technically. The penumbra will be visible from Hawaii, eastern Oceania, southern and central South America, the southwesternmost parts of Mexico, more specifically Baja California, and then portions of Antarctica. Approximately 175,000 people live along the path of annularity. Okay, so they're saying that you're supposed to be able to see this in the southern United States. Let me show you something where they tell you that that's what's going to happen, although it's not right. 1 second here, and I'll take you there to see this. So right here in an article by Eric Hendrickson, and I'm not exactly for sure where this article came from or who he's writing for on this eclipse, but this is, popular media. Ring of Fire solar eclipse to pass over part of the United States, South America on Wednesday. So they're saying it's going to pass over part of the United States. in this article, but then we come to another one and it says October's ring of fire solar eclipse will dazzle parts of South America and the Pacific. So what is it? Is it a pass over part of the United States, or not even see it in the United States and only pass over parts of South America and the Pacific Ocean? Well, let me show you this so you can kind of see here. We go back here. And I want to do this first. Let's look at this organization. It's called Time and Date. Time and Date will technically track any eclipse that you put into it all the way back to the year 1900. So we put in 2024 and we see our projected path of this eclipse falling right along this green highlight. Okay. So really way off, okay, the eastern the western seaboard of the United States. I mean, not even close, okay, to the southern states at all. South of America, southern portion of America. Excuse me, a little tongue tied there. It's just not there. So, well, is this reputable? I did a quick search. I don't really use much of this kind of stuff, Chat GPT, Bing AI, or anyway, but I did do this just so you can kind of see. I wanted to take a quick look, see where did time and date come from. So let's just read about this. Timeanddate.com is run by what organization? That's the question I asked. It says the website timeanddate.com is operated by Time and Date AS, a company established in June 2005. They provide a wide range of services related to time, time zones, and astronomy. And then I asked the question, are they a part of NASA? Okay, are they associated with NASA? I was of the mindset that I would get the answer yes. That's not the answer I got, but I just want you to show you that they are recognized as being very credible. So it answers back, no, Time and Date AS is not part of NASA. They're an independent company based in Norway, specializing in providing accurate time and date information, time zone data, and various other related services. Then I asked, can their data be trusted? And this is what it answers back. Yes, the data provided by timeanddate.com is generally considered reliable and accurate. They have been in operation since 1998 and are widely used by individuals, businesses, and organizations around the world for their time and date information. They source their data from reputable institutions. Of course, that would have to be NASA that they're sourcing from. That's really the only institution that they're getting this from is NASA, and have a strong track record of accuracy, which then would be saying that NASA does too. But no, it doesn't. Now, we see that they say, okay, it's possible to see this in the United States. If you see anything in the United States, you've been duped. And we're going to even further see why that would be the case. But let me just show you this little map right here that they put. So let me get my arrow again here. So right here, let's say, we were going to see this something of this eclipse, and it becomes even more absurd, and you'll see why in a moment. But just let's just, okay, for sake of argument, say that it could be visible from the southern United States, okay, at all, like especially right around here in the Baja, California. I mean, nobody really goes down in the Baja. It's pretty much uninhabitable unless you want to race dune buggies. Nobody hangs out down there. It's a desert. So I don't know how many eclipse watchers would be down there, but honestly, you're going to see in a moment, they just can't see anything. And I'm going to show you why. Okay, so this is the projection of the eclipse out over the Pacific. And this is when it will be in technically totality, okay, where it will make a complete ring of fire. It says here, let me zoom in here so you can see, greatest eclipse, okay, where it's at its greatest. Okay, so here's our southern United States, right? And so we're tracking this thing down here, and this is where, okay, then you're really going to be able technically to see it, and then it passes off, across South America. Okay, and then Argentina, Chile. We're going to look at this in a moment, but let me go here. So let's just look at this. They gave you this little diagram, okay, about how angular diameter works. Angular diameter, angular size, apparent diameter, or apparent size is an angular distance describing how large a sphere or circle appears from a given point of view. So basically, based off their diagram and their admission, if you were living in this, or we're able to migrate to this portion of the United States to even possibly view anything, you're not going to see anything. You're just not in the range to see it. And even what you would see, they're going to say is going to pass by you so fast, it will be like a flash. But give me a moment to get there to that. It really becomes pretty far out here in a minute with the kind of stuff they're saying. But I just want you to see by their own admissions, okay, we already have quite a bit of problems. So the way I would say this to someone, like, if I was talking to an absolute stranger or whoever might listen to this video, if I'm in the court of law, I'm trying a criminal case, okay, and I'm cross-examining, say, a suspect. This person is suspected, is under trial for murder. And I ask this person questions. If I catch this person in a lie against their original testimony that they might have given to the police at time of arrest or at time of questioning, then I found this person to no longer be a credible witness. If they are a suspect in murder, then the probability is extremely high, if not 100%, that they're the ones that did it. Because why lie unless you have a reason to lie? So they're lying for a reason. We will kind of scratch the surface of that. I don't exactly know or profess to know exactly what their reasons are for doing what they're doing. I guess we're going to find out because they are doing it, but they're lying. Okay. That becomes obvious. And that's what you need to keep in mind as you're thinking about these things. So, what we want to do now is we want to discuss more about the nature of this eclipse. So let's go. There's a couple of articles that I sourced from an outfit called space.com. Okay, space.com is the source for this material. And I want to go through this with you. And just so you can kind of see just some absurdities here. And again, basically a virtual admission that this is not really an annual solar eclipse like they say. This is really a partial eclipse, and they're kind of hiding it in plain sight. But if you don't know what to look for, you won't see it. Annular solar eclipse 2024. Everything you need to know about the next solar eclipse. Then it says here, after the great North American eclipse comes a long, look at this, a long ring of fire. Okay, so they're making it sound like, you're going to really get a great view. Okay, a long ring of fire, annular solar eclipse that can be seen in some iconic destinations. And we'll talk about those iconic, what's the most iconic destination? We'll get there in a moment. But let's just keep reading here. It says on October 2nd, 2024, an annular solar eclipse will pass over parts of the Pacific Ocean, southern Chile, and southern Argentina. And then I'm just going to kind of skip down to this place here where we have this highlight. Instead, it leaves a distinct ring of light around the moon, which is why the annular solar eclipse is also known as a ring of fire solar eclipse. So at the point of greatest eclipse in the Pacific, the moon will obscure 93% of the sun's center, creating a ring of fire. Look at this. They say visible for 7 minutes and 25 seconds. This is very peculiar, and you're going to see why in a moment. How could it last for 7 minutes and 25 seconds? But we'll get to that when they talk about the speed that it'll be moving. Just keep this in mind as some foreshadowing. This becomes very curious in a moment with another article that they wrote. But I digress. Let me just keep going forward here in what we're looking at right now. So then we keep reading here. What is an annular solar eclipse? So it tells you the October 2nd eclipse will be very similar to the annular solar eclipse on October 14th, 2023, which was visible across the US, Southwest Central America, and South America. And you know what? That's true. Okay. If you go back in this presentation and you look at the chart that was number 10 showing from 2023 on those eclipse records, you will see that, yes, indeed, in 2023, October 14th, we had a full annular eclipse. And I guess it was observed, although I didn't know to be looking for it, and more than likely you didn't either. We also had truly a total eclipse on April 9th of 2023 that got pawned off in 2024. Again, I digress, but we covered all this. the point of the matter is that no, it is nothing like this. It can't be because it's a partial. It's not an annular, but they're trying to pawn it off on you like that's the way it's going to be. So not true. Okay, this is none of this is adding up. So then it talks about where can we see the eclipse from. So let's just kind of look at that and see where they say you can see the eclipse. It says the ring of fire will be visible only within a path of annularity that passes across the Pacific Ocean, across, or excuse me, southern Chile and southern Argentina. So really, they're saying the only people who are going to be able to see this is if you just live way down here somewhere, okay, somewhere in here. Otherwise, you're just not going to see it, right? And you can see why again, why you wouldn't by their own admission. There is no way anybody in the United States should see anything. If you all do see something down here, you were duped, okay? Because this is not real in that regard. It can't work that way. I guess we'll see because the eclipse is not taking place yet, but it's coming up here shortly. As I said, we're doing this before it happens. Okay. So, anyway, that is just not right. So, we continue here in this article. It says this area will include the volcanic island of Rapa Nui, Easter Island. It's going to be over Easter Island. It says Easter Island down here is located 2,300 miles from the Chilean coast, making it the most isolated inhabited landmass on Earth. And it says, remarkably, it will be the second time a central solar eclipse has been visible from this tiny Pacific island in recent decades, with a total solar eclipse glimpse there on July 11th, 2010. A solar eclipse. Now, look, glimpsed. If I glimpsed at something, I mean, I just barely saw it, right? I just got a glimpse. What let's say I was a car accident had taken place and it was a hit and run, and I'm giving testimony like, well, what kind of car was the car that hit and run? Well, I just got a glimpse at it. It kind of looked like, you see, you see here a glimpse of something is not really seeing it. So their wording tells you, look, we're lying to you. But here's the thing. Okay, they say on July 11th, 2010. Well, let's just examine a true, accurate record of what celestial events should have been occurring in 2010 according to God's order of things. And you're going to see very clearly in 2010, there can be no full eclipse. Okay, they're all partials. That's what these stars represent, are partial eclipse. And certainly, of course, we have it in July, but it's a partial. It's not a full. You remember, these dark circles have to do with lunar events, not solar events. So this is just, once again, starting to enter into what I would refer to as the theater of the absurd. Now, let's read a little more here, what they say. So they go on to say the next total annual eclipse will be in 2034 and 2334, or the year 2324, or the year 2345. I mean, this thing is all over the place. They just kind of make up numbers as they go. Honestly, July 11th, 2010, according to a Saros cycle, is every 18 years and 10 to 11 days. So this eclipse should appear again July 22nd to July, say 20, it could be July 21, 22nd, 23, somewhere in there. I'd say 21, 22. If you were, going to be, if this was honest, it's not honest, 2010. Well, you jump forward 18 years, that's 2028, July 22nd, 2028. Do we have anything like that? And I'm going to jump back here just a moment, read these other sentences, but I just want to show you something. 2028, what do we have here? We don't have anything. Again, in 2028, we don't have any annular eclipses. We only have partials. So they're lying openly, honestly, and they're hiding it in plain sight. But if you don't know how to find it or look for it or search for it, you're not going to see it. There's no way you're going to call it. Okay. But we can call it here because we've traced time after God's order. God doesn't change his order, he keeps it consistent. People say, well, God can do anything. God can do anything, brethren, but lie. He can't lie. All right. He's not going to lie against his master timepiece in the heavens, which are eclipse cycles. And this is why this is so relevant and important, because when we see them lying against God's order, they're doing it for a reason. They call evil good and good evil. They call upside down, right side up, upside down. This is how they work. And so, again, here we're catching them in basically a bold faced lie. Let's go back, though, and deal with this. So then it goes on to say here in this article, October's Ring of Fire will be also visible from the southern Patagonia in Chile and Argentina. The path will be between, look here, 165 to 206 miles wide. Okay. Now, this, I want you again to keep this in mind. All right. Uh, the time, the length of the eclipse, and now the width of where it will really be seen in will be considered ring of fire mode. Okay. Just this little foreshadowing, just keep it in mind. We get there, you'll really see why I'm telling you to do that. So then again, here we see it tells you, what is the best place to see it, if you're willing, we're really willing to travel there. And of course, you're not going to see anything because the way they're saying it, I mean, it'd be virtually impossible. But right here, okay, is where you have quote unquote uh, ring of fire. That's your ring of fire right there. Let me zoom in a real quick here so you can see that. This right here would be your ring of fire event, okay, out over the Pacific Ocean. Okay, basically, ring of fire event over Easter Island is what they're trying to tell you. Okay, so let's just keep this in mind as we continue to go forward here. That's what they're showing you. They're also, I think they tell you here that they're going to be broadcasting it live. So I don't think this will be up fast enough for anybody to go watch it live. I don't recommend watching it anyway. I wouldn't watch it because it's fake. But I might watch the recording or see what people do with it after this is all over. It'll be interesting to see what the different, as they call them, truthers or whatever, how they handle this. But brethren, we're dealing with it first, okay, before anybody calls it a fraudulent or incongruent, inconsistent. We're going to do it now. Okay. We're not going to wait till after the fact. We do it before the fact. That's how it's done if you're dealing in truth. So now look, this becomes really curious right here. Let's read a little bit about this here. It says here, um, why is the October 2nd, 2024 annular solar eclipse special? What's so special? I mean, look at these patterns. We talked about this, how this pattern of April 8th is virtually impossible for the sun to do something that it never does. I mean, they do follow this trajectory. April 8th is like so unique. It deviates from what would be correct. All of a sudden, the sun decides to go whoop, whoop, but we talked about that too. I did a short on that. But I digress again. In all these circles, and they woo woo you with the quote unquote science for their diagrams, and so people just bow in submission to the science falsely so called because they don't know any other way to answer it. But let's just read the three different reasons why it's so significant. The October 2nd, 2024 annual solar eclipse is special for three very different reasons. First, it follows the great North American eclipse of April 8th. So interest in solar eclipses should be high, and many eclipse chasers will travel to see it. Second, it is a long eclipse with the ring of fire lasting up to 7 minutes and 25 seconds. It's a long eclipse, right? So, and that's interesting. I mean, is it a glimpse? Is it long? I mean, what is it? Is it short, fast? Well, stay with me, but that's just interesting that they say this. Second, that's much longer than the 4 minutes and 52 seconds possible in the US during the last annular solar eclipse on October 14th of 2023. So that was real. Okay. And that's a real time signature for, an average eclipse. I mean, this 7 minute thing it's a little bit exaggerated, honestly. But I digress again. We just need to see that, look, once, as I said earlier, if you catch a witness on the stand and they lie, at that point, all their testimony is not credible. So none of this is really credible because we've already caught them in lies, and we're going to see more, but just let's keep going. Third, the best place to view this event is truly iconic destination. Again, Easter Island. This is the place to go. One of the most remote places. on this plane of existence that we're on uh, to see it. Okay. Now, here's the thing I would say this as well. This has nothing to do with any belief system about like, where you live, so to speak, whether you live on a plane or whether you live on a ball. This has to do with the motions of celestial bodies in the heavens, period. So we can't make it about something that it's not. Okay, these patterns are consistent. And actually, in the 1800s, a gentleman by the name of Dimbley, who outlined these things and really set the tone for understanding this, he had the impression that we were on a spherical world. Okay, so you can believe either side and find the truth of this. And I would make that very clear. But anyway, so all right, they're saying how long this is going to last, 7 minutes, 25 seconds. So then let's keep going forward here. I showed you this. And so now, what are the best places to see a partial eclipse on October 2nd? Well, if you want to see a partial, I just want to show you real quick. You're definitely not going to see it anywhere in America, okay, in the southern portion of America, because there's nowhere here. And then look, it's just, I mean, 1%, like that's like nothing. This won't even register on your radar. But the point is, it's even 84% in the Falkland Islands. It's a partial eclipse, brethren. It's a partial, okay? Just like the order of the heavens say it should be, just like NASA admitted it was before they changed it in 1880 and bring it forward, just like Wikipedia admits it's a partial. And basically, they're going to tell you that it's moving so fast, you really can't even see it. Let's talk about that. How fast will the annular solar eclipses? Again, this is space.com. Now, guess who would be, the primary source of information for space.com? It's going to be NASA, right? So, how fast will the annular solar eclipse on October 2nd travel? The ring of fire annual solar eclipse will flash. Now, wait, how does it flash and at the same time last 7 minutes and some odd seconds? I've never seen a flash that lasted longer than a flash, a second or less. I mean, if you see something flash, it's there and it's gone, right? And basically, this is what they're admitting, or that you're just really not going to see anything. Will flash across the southern hemisphere on October 2nd, 2024. If you're seeing something, it's because it's not real, okay? But look here, watch this. Look what they say here. And this just really, as I said, I foreshadowed this and said, listen, keep this in mind. The time, okay, and width of it, roughly what? They said anywhere from 168 to 200 miles, somewhere in there. Don't hold me to that. I mean, I just said it a moment ago. You always can refer back and go over this again. I highly encourage you to. I also highly encourage you to check me out. Just don't believe me at face value. And also, don't deny me just because you don't understand. Okay. Start to do your research and see these things and open your eyes to the fact that they're trying to pull the wool over the world's eyes about the creation that our Heavenly Father made through his beloved Son. They're trying to deceive you. So watch this. The moon's shadow will appear to travel at vastly different speeds depending on your location. In some places, it will move faster than 6 million miles an hour. Well, that'd be a flash. I mean, have you ever seen anything that moved across the sky at 6 million miles an hour? I don't think so, or you could even see it anyway. I mean, this is so absurd. But then it goes on to say, in others, it will travel as slow as 1,278 miles per hour, or about the speed of a fighter jet. I have seen fighter jets fly across the horizon. Okay. It doesn't take a fighter jet. And you say, well, it's distance. Okay. Well, listen, when you understand that the sun is relatively close and not 96 million miles away, and that the moon is not 276,000 miles away, but actually very close to us, then listen, if it's traveling even at 1,278 miles per hour, it's definitely not going to last for 7 minutes and 43 seconds. I can tell you that much. Common sense should just tell you that. As my dad used to say, horse sense would tell you that. And it says during the annular solar eclipse, the moon's shadow will be projected onto Earth from northward to southeast. But because the planet is round, the shadow will travel across a curved surface. Consequently, the distance between a place experiencing the eclipse and the moon will change constantly. Well, if it was very similar to the April 8th eclipse, did you see a constant change all over the United States? Those of you that were there and maybe even went out and observed that thing, and I don't know, that wasn't the smartest move on people's parts, perhaps, and that's probably going to be coming soon to see why that might not have been so smart. But the reality of this is, even if you watch, video footage or you didn't see it, it wasn't changing constantly. So, will the orbital speed of the moon put together those factors mean the speed of the shadow will vary drastically? Brethren, this is just theater of the absurd at this point. And this is space.com. This is what they're telling people. People read this and they don't even pick up on it. Their minds don't even register this. They just digest this like this is the truth. No problem, move on. When this is extremely problematic, this is not possible. This is not after God's order. I mean, have you ever seen the sun speed up in the sky during the day? Have you ever seen the moon speed up in the sky during the night? But all of a sudden, during an eclipse, the speeds can vary dramatically. They're basically mocking us, is what they're doing. We're being mocked. And to me, it's offensive because I don't like being mocked, especially when I know better, and try to help other people know better. So as we begin to wrap this up, because it's not going to be very long, I mean, it's not that hard to show. There's some real problems here. Why? I mean, why might this be happening? I don't profess to know all the reasons it might be happening, but one of the things is it's Feast of Trumpets for our friends over there in Israel, October 2nd, 2024. And then look, see in the evangelical Christian realm, is it tribulation or rapture? This is where they're going to get into the fancy, but the point is that Feast of Trumpets. Now, this is a problem as well. When you really understand how to reckon the feast calendar, according to Karaite reckoning, you cannot have a Feast of Trumpets in early October. This is not going to work because that means Day of Atonement fell in September. That doesn't work. That's after a rabbinical method of timekeeping, which is false. A true method of timekeeping, according to the sacred scriptures of the Old Testament, would be a Karaite way. And actually, we'd start counting forward from this new moon into our Day of Atonement and then Feast of Tabernacles, which will be occurring later in this month, not October 2nd. But they're making it all kind of work together, aren't they? And then watch this. So then we got over here some of the things that Feast of Trumpets again, solar eclipse, tribulation or rapture, final days have begun. Are you ready for the rapture? Um, those of you that would know my channel and know me, you know that I don't believe in this thing right here. The Bible doesn't teach this. You can be raptured out of here before the great tribulation and escape all this. This is a common error of those who have bought into lies that started in the late 1800s and then were carried forward by the Schofield Reference Bible. But that's, again, I digress. Okay, all this stuff is just, it's absurd. But hey, look, I mean, they got something about this Ring of Fire thing, and they got something about October 2nd, and they want this thing to appear like this. I don't profess to know exactly why they want it to appear like this. I just know it has to be somewhat nefarious or really nefarious. Or why are they lying? Why are they lying? Now, interesting enough, October 2nd is a very interesting date in the occult realm. Okay. October 2nd is the last quarter moon possible in Esbot meeting. What is Esbot? What is this right here? Esbot. What's an Esbot meeting? Well, that meeting would be this, and get a definition for that right here. Esbot is a meeting of a coven of witches. So this is actually this is a high occultic day that they're making this either fall on or as God's order is falling on, and they're hijacking it. I can't say because I'm not going to be there to see it. Neither more than likely are you. Okay. And anything that they show you, you'll have to accept at face value that it's true, but we're already showing that it's impossible. So if they show you a Ring of Fire eclipse on the television set or your computer or whatever, or they have people saying they saw it, they didn't see something that was natural. That's the only way that I can say it. It was not natural. And so then I guess, they are into this in the occultic realm, this image here. They have something about the Ring of Fire. I don't profess to really know that much about this yet, although in forthcoming presentations, we're going to start to investigate this a little more. Some of our brethren in our group who have been keeping up with these things and studying in earnest to show themselves approved, we've been finding some really interesting connections to certain videos, cartoons, or movies, movie culture that they have basically told you what their plan was in advance. Now, one thing I would say as well is we start to really delve into the kings of the East, and that's what we're going to be doing in the near future, and looking at what that means in the Bible, who that represents. We can begin to understand very clearly once we know their history that they've had their plan for a long time. So don't be shocked, actually, brethren, if, now, after all this time, these events that look like, because they have plausible deniability, they were projected or planned so far in the past that now that what we're having happen in the present looks like, it's after natural order, but it's not, okay? It's planned, it's worked out. So, as I close on all of this, I want to finish with just one thing for you all to consider about where we're at and what is going on and what is the mindset of the world right now. Where do they see us? They don't like us. You need to understand that. You're not liked, okay? If you are not a part of their blood cult club, and this would make more sense in future presentations and would make sense even from some past presentations, but it just depends on who's kept up and who even comes across this. I don't know. But I encourage you to research the channel that this is on and investigate. But basically, what is a zombie apocalypse? Because that's just such popular culture right now. There's zombies. Well, a zombie apocalypse, basically, apocalypse equals revelation. A zombie is a physically alive but spiritually dead person. This is where I'm looking at right now, right here. Okay, so basically, a spiritually dead person is someone who's deprived of independent thinking, cut off from the higher self, slaves to the system. So, really, brethren, okay, this thing is a part of like a zombie apocalypse because it's not real, and it's obvious it's problematic after what we've just done here in a very short amount of time. We've shown how problematic this is. Yet, if people buy into this, they basically, what are they doing? They're turning your brain to goo. They're making you a zombie, a spiritual zombie, because you don't understand God's order. You don't understand time. You don't understand the generation you're in. You don't understand how little time you have left. I even speak for my own self. I don't think even my own self is able to digest or take in just how quickly this world can wrap up. And brethren, we're all in it for the long haul. Nobody's jumping out of here. The only escape is through our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and the shelter that he has promised to those that are sealed under the sealing messages of the three angels. And if you don't understand that, that's something you need to understand very well too. And most people who would align themselves with what I understand to be true from the Bible don't even know how to figure that out or understand that, let alone those outside of those who should understand and be able to figure that out. So I want to do this presentation because I want to time mark it that before the eclipse occurred, we called it like it is. It's not right. It's a problem. It's it's a hoax. It's just all I can say. Okay. Even if there is a celestial event, there is no way it is a annular eclipse ring of fire. There's no way. It's absolutely impossible. So keep studying to show yourself approved. Time is short. It's high time we awake out of sleep. Remember, it's time, time. And when we see these things begin to come to pass, as we were told in the book of Luke by our Lord and Savior, look up. They're going to be doing things in the heavens, fearful signs and wonders in the heavens, to confuse the masses and to prepare them to take on a one world religious system that will then bring a mark of the beast. And if you go along with that, you're in really big trouble. So now is our time to prepare and to wake while there's still time to be awake, and shore ourselves up and be covered by the blood of Jesus Christ and his mercy. So, Maranatha to anyone who sees this, and just keep a lookout because we'll be continuing to share on these things in the near future. Blessings.